Welcome to the Case Files. In the world of organized crime, the quiet moments are always the most dangerous. And in the history of Canadian-American mob politics, no quiet moment was more final than the disappearance of Paul Volpe. Born in 1927, Volpe was not a street thug. He was a connector, an ambitious strategist, and a man whose presence in Toronto's underworld was so absolute that he was the city's official link to one of the most powerful crime families in the United States, the Buffalo crime family. His nickname, the Fox, was earned through decades of smooth operation. He was a master of evasion, a quiet financer, and a shadow boss who controlled Toronto's most lucrative rackets: gambling, loan sharking, and union corruption. Volpe's downfall was not a public war, but a private, chilling betrayal. On November 13, 1983, Paul Volpe vanished, leaving behind only a trail of questions and a city suddenly silent. His body, found in the trunk of a car, was not just a murder. It was a message. This is the story of how Paul Volpe built his empire and why the shadows he operated in finally closed around him. As always, my name is Cody. I run this channel with my partner Katie. Welcome or welcome back to the Case Files. A reminder, if you do find today's video interesting and informative, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories told by yours truly. Now, grab a snack and a blanket and let's dive in. Paul Volpe's story is fundamentally a story of geography and loyalty. He was an Italian immigrant who settled in Hamilton, Ontario, a city geographically close to the border, and crucially, close to the seat of power for the Buffalo crime family, led for decades by the formidable Stefano Magaddino. By the 1950s, Volpe had distinguished himself as a reliable and highly intelligent operative. He was smooth, educated, and possessed a remarkable ability to navigate the legitimate world while executing criminal tasks. His reward came in the form of a coveted title. Volpe was formally made a made man in the Buffalo family, under the protection and direction of Magaddino. This was unprecedented power for a Canadian-based mobster, granting him jurisdiction and authority far beyond local disputes. Volpe's primary base shifted to Toronto, the financial capital of Canada. He was tasked with overseeing the Buffalo family's interests in the burgeoning Toronto and Hamilton economies, a vast mandate that included setting up gambling rings, running elaborate loan shark operations, and establishing deep roots in the powerful construction unions. He became the indispensable bridge. No major criminal enterprise in southern Ontario could be established without the blessing of Paul Volpe, and by extension, the Magaddino family in Buffalo. He was the anchor of American mob power on Canadian soil. The core of Volpe's wealth came from exploiting Toronto's hunger for vice. Gambling was his bread and butter. He ran illegal casinos and card rooms, where high-stakes games generated massive, untraceable revenue. This cash was then recycled through loan sharking. Volpe's network extended deep into the business community, offering quick, brutal financing to desperate entrepreneurs, with interest rates that guaranteed perpetual debt and absolute control over their assets. But Volpe was always thinking bigger. His ambition culminated in an audacious plan in the early 1970s, a scheme to establish a massive, legitimate, legal casino in Hamilton. This was a long-term play. It wasn't just about the money generated by the casino. It was about the potential for massive skimming of untaxed revenue and the opportunity to use a legitimate front to launder all the illicit money he generated across Ontario. The plan required political maneuvering at the highest level. Volpe's associates were deeply embedded in the local political structure. The details of this conspiracy were eventually exposed by a royal commission, which revealed the astonishing depth of organized crime's influence on provincial politics. Volpe had managed to move beyond simple street crime to operating at the level of corporate and political corruption. He had achieved what many mobsters only dreamed of, controlling the political infrastructure necessary to legalize his criminal profits. The fox was truly running the henhouse. Volpe's power was absolute, but the foundation beneath him began to crack. His primary protection, Stefano Magaddino, died in 1974, plunging the Buffalo crime family into a chaotic succession war. Volpe suddenly found himself answering to a new, less predictable regime. His loyalty was questioned, and the vast profits he was generating in Canada became a source of immediate jealousy and conflict for the new bosses. Simultaneously, a new threat was emerging on his own turf. The Toronto and Hamilton underworld had traditionally been run by a mix of Sicilian and Italian-American families. But the Ndrangheta, the Calabrian Mafia, was growing exponentially, building its own infrastructure based on the global cocaine trade. Volpe, the old-school Buffalo operative, was increasingly seen as an obstacle, a powerful Sicilian remnant blocking the massive new flow of money controlled by the Calabrians. Volpe's empire was facing a two-front war, internal conflict in Buffalo and an external existential threat in Toronto. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the police were also closing in. Volpe was the subject of intense, long-term surveillance by the RCMP and the FBI. His once smooth operations were becoming strained by legal pressure and the constant threat of being indicted on both sides of the border. He was caught in a trap, unable to fully trust his bosses and unable to repel his rivals. By 1983, the pressure had become unbearable. Volpe was facing a series of legal and financial battles that threatened to dismantle his entire life's work. Police pressure, particularly through the use of wiretaps and informants, revealed that Volpe, the quiet strategist, was starting to panic. The smooth, evasive fox was cornered. It is widely believed by law enforcement that Volpe made the ultimate fatal mistake of a mob boss. He considered talking. Facing the prospect of life in prison and realizing his former protectors in Buffalo were now likely considering him a liability, Volpe allegedly began exploring options with police. He was gathering information, building a case against rivals, and perhaps even against his own Buffalo associates. This information, however, does not stay secret in the world of organized crime. Volpe's frantic calls, his meetings with lawyers, his desperate attempts to secure his own future were all being tracked by those who stood to lose the most from his testimony. The decision to eliminate him was calculated, professional, and decisive. It was a preemptive strike designed to stop the fox from revealing the inner workings of two powerful crime structures, the Buffalo family and the emerging Ndrangheta power in Toronto. The order was given, and the clock was ticking. The end came with a chilling simplicity that defines professional execution. On November 13, 1983, Paul Volpe left his home in the upscale Toronto suburb of Woodbridge. He was seen leaving a friend's house, but he never returned to his own. He simply vanished into the early winter night. The world waited anxiously for news of the powerful mob boss. 6 days later, the mystery was brutally resolved. Volpe's luxury sedan was discovered in a long-term parking lot at Toronto International Airport. Police approached the vehicle, and in the trunk, they found the body of Paul Volpe. He had been shot several times and then placed in the trunk in a position known in mob circles as the trunk trick. The execution was clearly professional, a calculated move meant to send a terrifying, unmistakable message. The car and the body were perfectly staged to imply that Volpe had been lured away, killed by an unknown associate, and then left for disposal. The murder of Paul Volpe, the Fox, remains officially unsolved to this day. His death marked a profound turning point in Canadian organized crime. It signaled the final, violent decline of the old Sicilian-American influence. and opened the door for the rapid, massive ascendancy of the Calabrian Ndrangheta families, who quickly moved to absorb the valuable territories and rackets Volpe had painstakingly built. Paul Volpe's legacy is one of ambition, power, and the brutal lesson that, in the world of the Mafia, a man's greatest asset, his knowledge, can quickly become his deadliest liability. The fox had finally been caught and silenced forever. A permanent warning shot fired from the shadows of Toronto's underworld.
Hey there! Before you take off, we'd just like to take a second and say that we really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. Katie and I are so grateful for the incredible Case Files community, so thank you for being a part of it. If you want to help the Case Files continue to grow, one of the easiest things you can do is leave a like on this video and consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell as well and select all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. We want you to know that we truly appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.